Hey everybody, thanks for checking in. I hope you had a Merry Christmas. We still got one more holiday ahead, which is going to be the New Year, of course. And, it's going to be a short week. So, what are we going to do? Well, who knows what's going to happen. But we do know that the um, market will be open for those 4 days. And it will be, I want to say, somewhat uneventful. We're probably going to have some movement up, some movement down, but nothing major until, of course, once we get past this 4-day week and get into our regular normal trading weeks. And then, of course, we have the January 20th coming up, which we by that afternoon, we'll have a new president, and the market really should be booming at that point. We're going to find out and see what happens. I know the incoming president is promising a lot, and he's got a lot of people in his corner supporting him. So, we'll see what happens. But up until then, when that happens, we're going to have to deal with what we got. And right now, so we're going to start off with the S&P, which is, kind of running into some resistance overhead. It found some support down here at the previous high at 58.78. It did open up a window that was never reconciled, so we maybe at some point need to reconcile that window before continuing higher. And we got Bitcoin, which has been constantly, which has been selling off since it reached that high of 108,000, which was amazing, by the way. And then we got the 9 SMA coming over to add further resistance, along with the 20 rolling over to add further resistance. And you can see here it followed the 9 pretty well. And so we're expecting the same thing to go back down this way. So we moved up to our pinnacle, and now we're coming over to sell off to the downside to get back down in here to head back up again. All right, we need to close this window, reconcile that window also on Bitcoin futures. Okay. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. And we have another Bitcoin chart, which is kind of showing the same thing. All right, and we have an oil chart. Now, oil is showing a little bit of trying to move higher, but at the same time, it is in a down market. So be careful with our crude oil. Alright, we got overhead resistance of moving averages coming down. And we got our S&P 500 index futures. And as you can see here, we still have that little bit of a sell-off coming into the S&P. Ethereum also has been selling off big time. Ethereum hasn't really been doing what I was hoping it would do this year so far, but we'll see what happens. It's still early to tell, right? We still got 2025 to get through before we should really have a the talk is that we should go even higher than the 108 in the Bitcoin by the end of 2025, but we'll see what happens with that. Okay, well, right now we got the overhead resistance, but we do have our trade winds coming up below to help support and maybe push higher. So we'll see what happens with that in due time, right? Coming down, same thing, Ethereum. Gold has reached a high of 28.01, sold off a little bit. Now it's kind of consolidating in this area. I think we're going to have more of a pullback on gold till we get into our trade winds here, and we'll see what happens if we get some support and continue back higher to retest this 28, or if we continue to sell off in gold. Silver, we had a high of 35, then it sold off, hit to our trade winds in here, Found some support, bounced up, retested the $33 area, which got knocked down again. Now we're back to our trading lines, but we're a little bit lower than that, and we're starting to sell off even more. So look out for silver to continue lower if it can't stay in this. If it can't find support from the 200-day moving exponential. All right. Next up is Dow. And the Dow, of course, has been selling off also. Hit that 4,500 area. And now it's pulled back. Got a little bit of a bounce here. That's probably our dead cat bounce. You can see how all this red came in and just forced it down and then hit the ground and bounced up. So that's probably going to be a little dead cat bounce before we sell off some more. We got our moving averages rolling over also. It's respecting this 9-day SMA. So keep an eye on that, and then the 20-day is rolling over also to help with the come back down and to retest this previous high. That should now be some support. All right, as you can see, it tested it once and then just took off. So looks like we may be coming back into this area to retest that. Check out our trade wins. Check back into the mothership before heading higher. All right. So that is just of our majors. I don't have. I think I do have it in here. Let's see. So we get the SPY. And the SPY, looks like like I showed you already. That's the S&P. And I thought I had the Russell in here. It looks like I don't. Oh, what's that right there? That's short in the Russell. That one. What's this one here? Russell 2000. So, and as you can see, it hit 2400 and then it just boom, sold off. That's a big sell off too. So that's probably a dead cat bounce right in there. Split this in half here, right in here. Oops. Split that bar in half, and as you can see, half of that bar puts us at a pretty good resistance area that turns support. And we had this window that opened up also, so we closed that window. So maybe we want to, once we get that window closed, maybe we're ready to retest this support area here in our trade wins. If the trade wins don't hold us and push us back up, then look for a further retest of this area here at 21. And if that fails, look out below. But I think we're going to find some support in this area and go back up to retest this 2466 area up here on the Russell. All right. So that takes us to our holiday trade. As you can see, we have some stocks that we have our majors that are looking kind of questionable. And so we have to be careful with those because there definitely is a sign that there's maybe some weakness in the market. Okay, so now let's look at some of our holiday stocks, and we should start to see as we get into January, we should start to see some definitely money coming into those areas and some movement higher based on the how the Christmas went. We have when we do our earnings coming, so we should be seeing some positive movement in a lot of these consumer discretionary or these department store stocks. All right, so first up is our Apple, which of course you see Apple made a new high of 260. We got some windows open in Apple, and we got a little bit of a sell-off, but we're finding some support at around 253. And so look for some consolidation in this area, maybe to retest of that 260, and the 20-day gets up here, and we can see what happens from there if we get some more sell-off into the new year, which we probably won't see anything till after earnings, which is on January 30th for Apple. Next up is ADDY, which is Adidas, and Adidas has been in this consolidation mode in here. It opened up this window. Looked like it was going to come down and try to consolidate that before going higher, but it couldn't do it in time. And it's got earnings coming up on the March 5th. And so in the meantime, I think we're going to see some more consolidating in this area and here in our trade winds. We may come down and close this window opened up here. I don't think so. I think we're going to consolidate in here a little bit, go up and retest this high, and then maybe come back down as we get further into the new year. The 14-day ATR on Adidas is $2.89. So we can get up to that $134 pretty quick with $2.84 movement per day. So keep an eye on that. Let's see what happens, because we did put in that red bar right there on Friday, and we do have this overhead resistance coming in, and as you can see, it kind of respected that, and even on the downtrend here it did. Okay, so keep an eye on that. If our 20 days starts to roll over and that starts to push us down more, then we may be going back down there to close this window at 112 on Adidas. That right there is a tough trade to look at. Let's see what and we don't have any options information on it right now that I can look at, other than so we suspect the Adidas is going to continue to pull back. Next up is Amazon, which it looks like the S&P, and we'll see what happens in this area if we're going to continue to sell off into the on Monday the 30th, and we've got that overhead resistance here of the 9, is that the 9 or the 8? Yeah, 9 SMA, simple moving average. We got the 20 underneath that support, but we'll see what happens. If we open up lower on Monday, then I suspect we're going to continue lower down into this area here. If that doesn't hold, maybe even lower to retest this $200 area for support, which was a new high at one point. All right, next up is Abercrombie and Fitch. And as you can see, it's been consolidating. It looks like it wants to go higher in this area. We got our moving averages underneath for some support. It just closed above our 150 here. So if we get a nice green bar on Monday the 30th, then we should want to go higher to retest this 196.99 area. So it might make a nice short trade. Once we get up in there, look for some resistance and maybe a pullback. All right. That's Abercrombie and Fitch. Next up is Baba, and Baba kind of came down, bounced around a little bit into our moving averages, which was a little bit disconcerting at one point, and it popped up and then fell back down in here, which is kind of like a oh shit moment. Excuse my French. Then it popped back up into our wins, and now we're looking like we might be opening up higher on Monday. So we need an open and a close above about 85.20. If we can get up to about 86 and close above 86, that would be even better. And then we're most likely going to continue higher on Baba. But then also they have their earnings coming up on February 6th. So look for that to move higher. And then as we get closer into earnings, be prepared for either a sell-off or a pop higher. But we won't know until we start getting some trading days under our belt and no short weeks. But we still got, once we get through January, we still got February. Well, we'll see what happens when that comes up. All right, next up is Bath and Body Works. Bath and Body Works. It's got the trade winners for some support. It's got this 200-day simple moving average acting as support. We got the 20-day coming up underneath acting as support. We got the 9 as overhead resistance. And so we need to open up higher on Monday and continue higher, and then to retest this area up here at around, I'm looking at about 41.16. Get through 41.16. If we can get to about $43, then we know we got a good area of support, and then we should continue higher. All right, and once we get our moving averages and whatnot underneath to allow for that uplift. All right, but we got minimum. The volume has been really low, so it's kind of hard to really be 100% sure on this stuff right now. And I just wanted to really just come back in and let you guys know I'm still around, and I've been gone since before Christmas. So I Christmas break, what have you. So now I'm back and I'm looking at this stuff and I'm going, this is some possibilities, but at the end, you got to remember that the volume has been low up until, to this point, and it's still kind of low. We don't know how we're going to be looking with another short week. Okay, so there may be some stuff happening, may not be, we may continue to pull back with the Dow and the S&P, but we won't know until we get going on Monday and to get a better calculation. So this is just kind of give you an idea, but be conscious of the fact that it's going to be a short week next week. All right, next up, Costco, which is pulled back. It reached that high of 1,008, and now it's coming back down to retest this area around 900, between 900 and 850, we'll say. Coming back in to retest this area, and then we'll see what happens, if it's going to continue lower or if it's going to find some support and go back up to retest this 1,008. All right, next up is Decker's Outdoor Court, and this has been, a steady mover. It's been steadily going higher. It pays a dividend. They just did a split back on They did a 6-to-1 split on the 17th of September. So 6-to-1, that's not bad, and they're still in the $200 area. So, so when they did the split, it was around, I'd say, about 150. So that's about what, 6-to-1, about somewhere around $600, $700, $800. All right, so and now it's sitting at about 214 when it was back around 153. So it's definitely a mover, a strong moving stock, and it pays a dividend, I believe. Let's see, no dividend. So, but anyway, it's definitely a strong stock. It's a mover. So, like I said, they just did a split, so and it's still going higher. So next up is Dick's Sporting Goods, and we're moving higher. We got the moving averages coming up beneath to show support, and it's coming back to retest this 239 area. We need to get through that, retest for support before going higher. But right now, Dick's is looking like it wants to continue going higher. All right, next up is Kohl's. And Kohl's looks like it found a bottom at $13.77. and it had a nice little bar here, volume day, which pushed us up, and it pulled back a little bit here on Friday. All right, so for coals we want to open up higher on Friday and retest this window that it opened at $15.60, and then we want to go and close that window at about 17.45 and maybe continue higher to retest these moving averages or these trade winds that are coming down to wreak havoc on the stock. All right, but we know we got definitely had some movement higher, had a nice bar here, so there's some volume came in on this day here, the 20th of December. We got some nice volume in it. It continued to ride through, but we ran into our resistance of the 20-day, which kind of pushed us down a little bit, but then we caught some support from the 9-day. Okay, so let's hope we get some a nice open on Monday to push us back up through here to retest this $15 area. Alright, next up is Lulu. Lulu's been doing pretty well, gapped up, tried to come back and shut it, but it couldn't do it because the 20-day simple moving average caught it and forced it back up again. Volume has been real low the last couple of days, so be careful with this one on how it opens up on Monday. It may push up higher and then pull back and trap a lot of you up here. So be careful with Lulu. I think we're going to be running into some resistance at this $398, $400 area. Alright, next up is Macy's. And Macy's two nice green bars. So now Macy's, so you had this nice bar here, right? Big green bar pushes up. Then we had this. You can count that as one big green bar because there's nothing but green, 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 green on all the way up. Or, which is what I did here, you can see up on my, just kind of see where we'll be at on this bar and break it up into percentages. And then you have this one bar here that I put this red one on. And so we got a little pull back into the 1752 area, and even on the using this whole big bar as a as one bar, but then when we broke it down to this one bar, still pretty much the same area of movement. Alright, so we'll see what happens on Monday. I know we should find some support in this 1750 area. If not, then we may pull back down into this area down here at $17 before going back higher. But we got our moving averages coming up to support, and then we also have our 200-day here coming underneath to act as support as well. So we may pull back to help get these moving averages into a smaller point and then go higher. But I'm looking at Macy's and I see lots of there's volume coming into this particular stock. So we just keep an eye on it because of course we did have our our Dow and our S&P showing weakness. Okay, so that weakness in the Dow and S&P can also affect some stocks, not all of them. If the volume's coming in, it's going to go higher regardless of what the rest of the indices are doing. But keep an eye on that. But I suspect Macy's is probably going to consolidate in this area and then go higher, somewhere in between here. Somewhere between $17 and $18 we're probably going to consolidate and then break through 18 and go higher. Alright, next up is Nike. And Nike hasn't been feeling very well this Christmas. Looks like it's been selling off quite a bit. Maybe might continue down to the $73 area for some support, retest that before trying to go higher. It had a earnings on, what day is that? 12/19 was the earnings on it, and I have to look in to see how the earnings actually turned out on Nike, but I suspect it wasn't that great. And we didn't get any movement whatsoever, not a pop up or a pop down. It just kind of, stayed flat. So careful with Nike. Um, it's a dividend play for some of you, so at least you got your dividends. All right, next up is On Holding, which is the tennis shoe. They do the outdoor shoe apparel, whatever. I think they make those. I want to say the OCs. I think they're called OCs, On Clouds or something like that. Anyway, those seem to be the hot tennis shoe right now, and as you can see, the stock has been steadily moving higher. We got a little bit of a sell-off. Maybe we're going to come back and retest this area for support before continuing higher. Had a nice bar here, but the volume has been low, so I think we're going to continue to sell off. They have earnings coming up on the March 11th. This is a company in Switzerland, and so it's going to be one of those ADRs or AGs or whatever you want to call it type stock, and so be careful with those. Sometimes you buy those and you got to pay I don't know what they call it. I forget the name of it, but anyway, you had to pay a little extra fee in order to own them. So be careful on this one. You might want to wait until you're sure we're heading higher, unless you want to go short on it, and then you got to be careful that you're sure we're going to be going lower before you take that trade. But right now it looks like the puts are in 3-1. Okay, so be careful with that one. Next up is Starbucks, and Starbucks has this huge window that's still open, so be careful with that one. I think we got a little bit of a dead cat bounce here, and maybe we're going to sell off into this and come down here and close this window, so be careful with Starbucks. They have earnings coming up too on January 28th, and then they have a dividend also in February, so there's a lot of things against Starbucks at the moment. Got the trade winds here that are trying to fight it also. So yeah, I'd be careful with Starbucks. The 20-day is coming over, so we'll see if the 20-day gets down here faster than it can go higher. Then look out below. It's going to come down here and shut this window, I believe. So we'll see what happens with Starbucks. Next up is Skechers, and Skechers has been steadily moving. It opened at this window, came down and shut it. Look for some consolidation in this area before retesting this $69 area. If we get above that, come down and recheck for support. We get some support. $75 is our next test. Alright, next up is Target, and Target opened up a huge window. Now it looks like it's going back to close it. So keep an eye on Target. It's low volume in there as well, but of course, holiday week, so there's going to be low volume. Volumes should start to pick up as we get into the new year. Alright. Next up is TJX. And it's been a steady mover. It closed this window here, pushed higher. Started to sell off a little bit, found some support in this area here, and but it's running into some resistance at the 20-day, so we'll see what happens. It put in that little bar right there on low volume on Friday, which should go lower to retest this area here again at around $120. Alright, that's TJX. And next up is Tilly's. And Tilly's, as you can see, has been getting some volume coming in. It's been pushing higher. It's getting through the 20-day. It's got the 9 coming underneath it for some support. So look for it to test this $4 area. And the ATR on Tilly's is like 31 cents. So It's like watching fucking paint. I mean, excuse me. It's like watching the paint dry on the wall. So just put your sign up, don't touch, and just let it do whatever it's going to do. All right. Next up, United. Oh, United. Under Armour. United. I was going to say United Artists because I just went and saw a movie recently. Anyhow, we got the movie trade winds in here, catching it, holding it up, and here you can see it's been bouncing around in here. Can't just get below it because it's been using it as some support in this area here, consolidating on Under Armour. So Under Armour is got a little bit of volume coming in, and I have a feeling it's going to start to get some more as we get further into the new year, because of course this is our holiday trade and our money, all the money that came in. Most of these stores make most of their money around Christmas and November. Well, school, and then you got Thanksgiving, and then you got Black Friday, and then you got Cyber Monday, and then you got Christmas shopping. So these places start to make most of their money towards the end of the year, and so that's when we'll start to see it, especially on the when we have our earnings on February 6th on Under Armour. We should continue to push higher. Close this window has already been reconciled here, so we just kind of go back up to this area and push higher and retest this $10 area. So it could be a $3 move, but it's a 32 cent. The ATR on Under Armour is 32 cents. So the 14-day, 32 cents a day. So you do the math. Next up is Ulta. And as you can see, Ulta continued higher. It opened up a little window here, tried to come down and close it, but it just couldn't quite make it. But it doesn't seem to care too much about it anymore. It wants to continue higher. So I put in a little bit of a doji there. It's not really doji, but it is it looks like an indecision bar. So we'll see what happens on Monday when it opens up. And it's going to hit this 464 area, and I'm sure it's going to have some resistance. And then we'll see what happens. It may pull back and then bust through it to go back and close this window up here at $518. Next up is VFC. And VFC hit a high of 23.49. And it's starting to show a little bit of sell off here. This bar here got knocked down. This was a nice green bar for a second, then it just sold off and it pulled back into here. So it's kind of consolidating in this area, and it's showing some indecision. Not quite sure what it wants to do. So we'll see what happens on Monday when it opens up. Monday, if it opens up lower, I suspect if the 20-day doesn't hold it, it's going to drop back down into this area and retest this area before trying to go back up. And at this point, it's a $4 move to go back and retest this high. Alright? And VF Corp, if you don't know who that is, it's a company that does protective work footwear, like under the Dickies brand and stuff like that, and the Timberland brand, and they sell they make the Timberlands and whatnot, and so that's who the VF Corporation is, out of Denver, Colorado. All right. Next up is Wally World, and Wally World hit this $96 area. It still has this window open that it hasn't reconciled, and it's running into some resistance with the 9, and it's got the 20 starting to roll over. So if the 20 continues to roll over and continue to force this down, then we're going to come back down in this area and retest this $85 area, or maybe even come down and retest this $81 area and see if we can find a nice support in here before trying to go higher. The ATR on Walmart is $1.67, so, and it's a 14-day average. So on 14 days at $1.67, $1.67, 14 days. So you do the math, and you can figure out which way you should be going at any given time, how far you can go within the 14 days. All right. And that's another way of calculating your move on your stock. Okay, after 14 days, I want to be in it still or out of it, before the pullback. Maybe you might get half 7 and half 7. Just depends on how the money bags decide to come in and do whatever they're going to do with the particular stock. But of course, Walmart's they pay a dividend. It's a good company. It's been around for a while and it's established. So it's definitely a buy. It's just where you're going to buy it at. All right, and you could play the short on this one too. But you do you, boo. So that's it. That's all I got for today, for tonight, for this week. Be careful this week because, like I said, it's a short week. So, it could go either way. It could be, you might find a stock that's just booming. You might find, one that's going, shooting straight up or shooting straight down, or you might just find a bunch of them that are just kind of lazy and not doing nothing. It's just it's tough during short weeks. You gotta be careful with them. Sometimes you can find that one breakout and get in it and make a few bucks, and so short terming a lot of them is not a bad idea right now, until we fully get running off into the new year. And I'd say that wouldn't happen. That's not going to really happen until after the 20th. But don't get me wrong. There's going to be some movement up until the new president takes office. But once the new president gets into office, and then now we're the worry and the wait is out of the way. And now we just have to see what's going to happen from there. Okay, which I'm sure is going to be lots of exciting things for the next 4 years. Okay, so that's all I got for now. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for the likes and the subscribe. Like I said, be careful next week. We got that Wednesday is going to be New Year's and New Year's Eve. I'm not sure the market's probably going to do like a half-day thing on New Year's Eve. Who knows? But, so you got 1 day of trading on Monday, a half day probably on Tuesday, no day on Wednesday, and then back to business Thursday and Friday, which, we'll see how business is for Thursday and Friday because people might be too hungover to want to do anything, you know what I'm saying? So there you go. That's what I got. I hope you enjoy what I put out for you so far today. I'm going to try to get you some more stuff up, and but I don't really want to give you a whole lot, put your hopes up until I get an actual full week of trading under my belt so I can see where we're headed and what's really going on. Because right now with these short days, it's kind of like, be careful with this stuff. Like I said, I Christmas, I was like, man, I ain't even messing around, because you never really know. I mean, there was some good shorting opportunities coming up through Christmas, and even some good long trades that were happening. But you had to be nimble. So, same thing with this week coming up. Be nimble. Don't use up all your day trades. If you're not over $25,000 in the account, don't use up all your day trades next week. You know what I'm saying? Save them. Or this week coming up, save them for the full week of trading. All right. So anyway, that's all I got. I'm not trying to teach you or tell you what to do, but it's just kind of a suggestion, kind of a, because it's difficult. You get there and you're thinking, man, I know this is going to do that, and you want to just buy it right now, and then you come find, oh, it should have gone the opposite direction, and now you done used up a day trade, So be careful. If you really, in my opinion, for me, if I didn't have over $25,000 in my account, I probably wouldn't be trying to day trade anyway. Because now you got those constraints. So that's all I got. Be careful out there. These markets are crazy.